Ron, maybe I should do it?
Yeah, sure.
Wingardium Leviosa. They're coming. They're coming.
Cool!
Yeah.
How thick can you get?
Come on. Get into their road so we can sneak down to the Slytherin common room and find out if Draco was in fact behind the opening of the Chamber's secrets.
Spoiler alert, we know he's not.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second Harry Potter film, and oh boy, is this another great instalment. Once again, they merge practical and visual effects perfectly, the characters are all brilliant, the acting might even be slightly better, and the plot is also really good. The plot basically sees, after escaping the Dursleys, Harry Potter goes to Ron's for the summer, and then later they go to the second year at Hogwarts School. There is a house elf called Dobby, who works for the Malfoy family, but we learned that at the end. And he's trying to stop Harry from going to school because there is a plot for most dangerous and terrible things. And that's why he tries having him stuck at the Dursleys, and then he tries stopping them from getting on the train. But, of course, Ron and Harry managed to fly there by the magic car, much to getting into trouble for it. And Ron breaks his wand, which means there's comedic broken wand action throughout this film. He'll get a new one for the next film. Don't worry. So yeah, some comedic uses with the rock wand, and the school year sort of, despite that, carried on as per normal. Like the last film, we get a nice scene with Professor Sprout and the Mandrakes, which kind of sets up how they're going to revive the petrified victims of the basilisk in the next later down the line. So that was a good scene, and Professor Sprout is played brilliantly by Miriam Milgreaves. She does a great job. I do think the Howler scene is a bit unnecessary for the film, although it does introduce Colin Creevey, who does pop up. But then again, he doesn't appear in later films, so the character turns out not to be as terribly necessary. But I suppose maybe they were thinking of having him back in later films. I'm not sure. I mean, I will say this, the one problem with this film is that it is a little bit too long. It could have been cut down a little bit. This and Goblet of Fire could have gone chopped down a little bit. I think the last film was perfect with its... with all the scenes it had to do, for all nearly all of it. But this time it could have cut itself down shortened itself a little bit, and it would have been fine. Goblet of Fire, of course, has a lot of stuff to get through, and it only follows the main story of that as well. So yeah, so I can forgive that one being a long one as well. But as same for Half-Blood Prince. But Chamber of Secrets, wow, very packed with stuff. Although there is very little I can actually see being removed that wasn't that wasn't removed for the theatrical cut. But you know what we got was brilliant. So eventually, the Chamber of Secrets is open. It's opened, and the big plot begins. It's about 45 minutes into this film when that happens. But you know, out of a 2 hour and 2 hour 35 minute long film, then yeah, well actually it's 2 hours 34. But yeah, then fair enough. And soon Harry, Ron, and Hermione have to investigate the chamber and work out the mystery and try and see who's opened it this time, as well as also discover its history has been repeating itself and something happened and it or was opened already the previous time. And yeah, that's more or less the plot, and it's done brilliantly. And I think the characters again are done well, brilliantly as well, and the casting. It's just basically the last film, but sorry, not basically. It's basically like the last film. It's with all the film techniques with the new story, and the new story sort of works brilliantly as well. Brilliant plot. I think the plot's pretty brilliant, although it does take its time to get there. But you know what the taking time we get is fine. It's not too bad. It's not slow. There's just a lot of stuff there, but it manages to weave its way brilliantly. This film does have an extended edition out there. I'm not reviewing that, but that's nearly 3 hours possibly. My blimey. Got some really brilliant scenes. I also like how Ron is pretty much working with Harry for most of the third act because Hermione gets petrified, spoiler alert, and how the two are able to work off each other as well pretty brilliantly, showing their growing their friendship. And quite a lot of the film does have a bit of a focus on the Ron and Harry friendship in places when Hermione's not there, but it also grows their relationship, the whole trio's friendship together as well, and pretty brilliantly, and also raises the stakes in a few places with the Chamber of Secrets. Also raises the stakes for Ron when Ginny gets taken into the chamber in the third act, his younger sister and Harry's future wife, may I add. But that's we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But yeah, when that Ron sort of has supposedly Ron has a more responsibility because his sister there, but there isn't much focus on that until she gets taken into the chamber, and then he and Harry have to rescue her. And we also have a really self-obsessed new defense against the dark arts teacher, Gilderoy Lockhart, a celebrity who wrote a lot of books and has become really famous from doing a lot of deeds. And he's really self-obsessed, but it turns out he's actually quite useless. And it also turns out he's a fraud. He's just been taking credit from what other wizards has done and writing them as books to make himself look good and obliviating the wizards. He's actually quite gifted with memory charms. Although he does backfire the one he attempts on Harry and Ron with Ron's wand. Whether the memory charm he gave himself by accident is the same type of memory charm he gave to everybody else is uncertain. He might have just erased those memories from the other wizards, but here he completely forgets who he is. Whoops. Wizards or witches, depending on who. But Kenneth Branagh does a brilliant job in the role, and yeah, he's a really fun character, despite being a very useless guy. And also, I like how the story sort of goes a bit more of a personal angle when Hagrid is supposedly becomes the number one suspect for opening the Chamber of Secrets, or at least the first time back in the 50s. So yeah, and I like that story that they're going to delve into a bit more of Hagrid's past, and Robbie Coltrane does a brilliant job in the role. And also, sadly, this is Richard Harris's final performance as Dumbledore, as he passed away shortly before the film came out. But thankfully, again, like Carrie Fisher with Star Wars Episode 8, he was able to finish his scenes before his passing, and they would get the magnificent Michael Gambon for the next film. But yeah, Richard Harris does another fantastic performance as Dumbledore. He's really shining, and if he did a few more, I think he would be absolutely fantastic in further films, but certainly he does an amazing job here, just like in Philosopher's Stone. He certainly is brilliant. And also on top form are Maggie Smith and Alan Rickman as Professors McGonagall and Snape. They're brilliant, as are Richard Griffiths and Fiona Shaw as Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia in the early scenes, as well as Harry Melling as Dudley. And also Tom Felton's Draco Malfoy is also really great here. It seems that everybody from the previous film has just gotten themselves a little bit better, and it just shows that they're growing alongside it. And also new cast members introduced, like Jason Isaacs. He's fantastic as Lucius Malfoy. Mark Williams as Mr. Weasley. He's brilliant. And also so is Julie Walters as Mrs. Weasley, getting more to do and having fun with the role. Sorry for noise outside. And as I said, Miriam Margolyes is also introduced in this film. She's great. And also we get introduced to Tom Riddle, who later reveals himself to be Lord Voldemort. And it actually turns out that he was the one who opened the Chamber of Secrets originally. And in his memories inside the book is what is going to be a new way for Voldemort to come back to life. And Lucius Malfoy, who technically works with Voldemort, slipped the book into Ginny Weasley's cauldron, and she was the one who opened the Chamber of Secrets under trance. Whoops. And eventually Voldemort starts sucking the life out of Ginny, and it starts to become alive again in his younger form by the looks of it. And his memory version will cease to be just a memory, and he will be very much alive. Although how younger Tom Riddle, who was formerly a memory, who's now going to be alive, how that fits with the older Voldemort as seen in Philosopher's Stone, not sure. I'm sure it's explained somehow. But eventually Harry is able to kill the basilisk with the sword of Gryffindor after Fawkes the Phoenix, Dumbledore's pet bird, flies in with the sorting hat, and Harry is able to pull out the sword and kill the basilisk, and then he uses a basilisk fang to destroy Tom Riddle's memory and saves Ginny. And Voldemort would have to find another way of coming back, and they devise a very complicated but simple plan for Goblet of Fire, which we'll get to in 2 films' time. So eventually Harry, Ron, Ginny and Lockhart fly out on Fawkes out of the chamber and back to the school, and Hagrid gets to come back home after he was temporarily taken to Azkaban by the Minister, played by Robert Hardy, because of his record being against him. Also, we get a brilliant voice appearance from Julian Glover as Aragog, Hagrid's former pet of giant arachnid, who Harry and Ron then go and see and escape from. That was a pretty cool scene. So yeah, on the whole, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is another fantastic fun ride adventure, and has lots of great things going for it, and is really brilliant. Great plot, great cast, great characters, put really well together. It's just handled so brilliantly. They knew what they were doing with these films, especially the earlier films. They knew exactly what they were doing, and once again we got another brilliant adaptation. Also, Dobby gets his reward at the very end, so that's great when he's freed. And yeah, and some really cool other stuff going on, like the Quidditch match. That was great, and Harry learning about the Chamber of Secrets opening before, and yeah, just plenty of brilliant stuff. And it's just it's a fun ride adventure. Again, it's a bit long, like the last one, but yeah, I can understand it being a bit needing to be this long. Although I think there could have been some bits to cut down, but it's still a really brilliant film, and I really highly enjoy it. So I'm going to be giving Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I was going to give it a 9 originally. That was the original score. But after rewatching it, I thought, actually, you know what? It's pretty much on the same level as the first film, nearly. I mean, the first film was a bit introduced us to the whole world, and it was just done so beautifully. This one carries on the story, but it's still done really beautifully and really spectacularly. And it's just so wonderful. And John Williams' music, whilst I originally did think that the first two film scores are very similar, and that is still true, but listening to film two's score, it's actually a bit dark. It's got some more darker scenes. Well, number one was a very introducing to this wonderful, magical, jolly world. This one starts to increase the darker nature that will come later down the line. It starts including the darkness and the more scary and intense moments in the score. I mean, you've got a bit of that in the first one, but this one's seems to include that a bit better, and I think that is brilliant. And I think I would take the Chamber of Secrets score just a little bit over Philosopher's Stone. I love the Philosopher's Stone, but I think Chamber of Secrets is slightly better because it's able to blend in the darker moments with the lighter ones. Although I do think John Williams' best score would be in Prisoner of Azkaban, because that one actually has a bit more of an identity, because it doesn't just reuse some of the same scores from the previous two films. It actually has a bit more of an identity. Not that I don't mind reusing the same scores in the same film, in the next film, but I think with Chamber of Secrets was able to differ itself enough with the new music, and Prisoner of Azkaban would eventually have a bit more of an identity, something akin to the later films, with not having to reuse all of the same tracks as the last two films, just a couple of them, and introduce some pretty brilliant new ones. And then the same would be said for the other musicians who do more than one film, compose scores for more than one Potter film. They're able to give each film a bit more of an identity and not have to copy and paste so much. So that's why Prisoner of Azkaban is my favourite of the John Williams scores, because it has a bit more of an identity than Chamber of Secrets. But I do consider Chamber of Secrets' score slightly better than the Philosopher's Stone, because it's able to give us some brilliant dark musical tracks scores into the film. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. So that's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, another brilliant adaptation. Next time we'll be looking at another brilliant adaptation. Well, things start to differ a little bit more between the books and the films with the next one, but they're still keeping pretty similar. And under new director Alfonso Cuarón, things start to get a bit darker, but still remaining a little bit light for one more film, and that is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And yeah, this is one of my favourites of the series. Oh, so I'm really looking forward to this one. So next time, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Some nice introduction to the Mandrake stuff at the start. Sorry, but yeah. Excuse me. There seems to be an increase of everyone seems to be, because it's able to merge the darker the darker themes into the film, the score even better.